Welcome back, gamers. Enforcer 5150 here, and I am back to go ahead and start benchmarking the 2080 Ti. That's the Gigabyte AORUS Extreme, and it is a nice card. I have to definitely admit that. It's expensive as hell, but damn, it has really proven to be one powerful piece of hardware, just a little overpriced. But anyway, we're doing DLSS versus TAA. On the left side we have TAA, and on the right side we have DLSS. As you can probably tell, we do get a little bit more frames per second. Right now we are in 2160p, so we're at full 4K in the highest preset. And it is the preset, because if you turn up some of the other settings, it does go down quite a bit. And I was thinking of doing that another time, but a lot of times, like the SMA, I believe it is, I think that's the one that it's really something they haven't developed enough yet for. It's for a lot higher graphics cards. You can use it by turning down some other settings and, you know, kind of compromising with it, but I prefer the TAA mainly for the frames per second, and there's not too much of a difference that I notice. I mean, there obviously is when you look up close. Now, when we're looking at DLSS and TAA, though, one thing you will notice with DLSS is the image quality usually is really bad. And in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I really haven't noticed that much of a difference in both the two. I did play Metro Exodus a bit. I didn't do a video on that one. I wanted to wait a little bit because I started seeing a lot of other people's videos, and I was like, dang, that is actually really bad. And I did actually do some recordings, and I was doing some comparisons, and it was just too far off. And my conclusion was that it just needs more time for the developers to learn how the DLSS works. And in the Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it really looks like they definitely have a grasp on it. There's really not that much noticeable differences that I can tell, just without zooming in. If you zoom in, obviously you can tell, the differences, but it's not that much, especially when you're running in 4K and you're running on a 55 plus screen or a 50 plus screen. If you're running 4K on a 20 some or like a 27 inch or something like that, you should probably consider not getting a 27 inch for 4K. I'm just saying, there's not a lot there. Anyway, here we go with the results. As you can tell, that on the DLSS we get about 80 frames per second, and when we look at the TAA we get 60, which that is not bad. I mean, an average of 60 to 62 frames per second. I ran these tests a few times just to get a good idea of what we're looking at, and my one concern was like how much the CPU is going to be able to handle, and it definitely can handle everything that the GPU can pretty much handle anything the CPU is throwing at it. So I really want to do another video that's with the 2700X and kind of do a comparison of the two, just to see if we get a little bit of bottleneck on the 2700X, which I don't think we will, because it is a very powerful CPU. The i9-9900K is definitely one that is just expensive in comparison. Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at the results. And the DLSS in 4K, we have 70 frames per second on our minimum. We have 84 frames per second as an average and 116 frames per second for the maximum. Now we're looking over at the TAA. We have a minimum of 50 frames per second, 62 on average, and 90 frames per second for our maximum. And the thing is that they're both over 60 frames per second, and when you're in 4K, as long as you're getting over 60 right now, it's fine. There's only a handful of monitors that can do more than 60 hertz. If you're trying to exceed your hertz, you're pretty much okay. But when you look at the TAA, you don't get that 60 frames per second all the time, and that kind of hurts you in a way. Anyway, we're gonna look at the 1440p here, and DLSS we have 105 frames per second on our minimum. We have 114 on average and 189 on the maximum. Now we look at the TAA. You got a 91 minimum, a 97 on average, and 180 maximum. Now this is a little bit of a problem, because when we go down to 1440p, we're not really getting that much of a benefit that we see in 4K. Because in 4K, you know, we're seeing like 30 frames per second more, where in 1440p we're getting maybe 10 to 15 frames per second at the most. You know, and that's kind of detrimental, because you know, you want to try to get the most frames per second you can, but you also don't want to suffer too much image quality. You know, you kind of have to have an even balance there, and you really don't see that with these when you're going into 1440p, because the GPU has to get to a certain amount of load before it actually starts giving you a real benefit. And I have to say that has to be one of the, you know, downfalls, I'd say, of using DLSS, because you really won't be able to see getting, you know, 144 frames per second plus using DLSS, you know, because it's not going to give you enough load on the GPU to be able to actually give you that benefit or give you that much more frames per second. You know, you would hope that you would be able to do that, but it's really just not possible. So, you know, jumping down to, you know, 1440p or 1080p to get over that 144 hertz is probably your best bet at this point, and then start waiting for newer cards to start coming out. Anyway, that's all we're going to do for this video today. I wanted to try to make it nice and quick and short and just kind of get this information out to you guys. I was excited to get this card. We will be having more videos coming out. We're going to do some 2080 versus the 2080 Ti in the Division 2. We'll probably do a little bit of Anthem and stuff like that, but who knows. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching this video. Make sure you hit that like button and definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel. You all take care and happy gaming.